Hi guys, welcome to attend Alibaba Cloud Apsara Clouder Cloud Computing Specialist Certification course. In this course, you will learn how to construct a dynamic website. This is the course objective. First, you will understand the required environment for running a dynamic website. And then you will understand how to use Alibaba Cloud ECS as a cloud server. And finally, you will learn how to take advantage on Alibaba Cloud's features to build your first dynamic website. This is the outline of this course. In the first chapter, you will learn about what are the things you need to host a dynamic website. And then in the second chapter, we'll talk about what is Alibaba Cloud ECS, how to use it as a cloud server, and its key features. And then in the third chapter, we'll tell you how to choose the cloud server you need. And in the fourth chapter, we'll talk about ECS storage and its important feature, which is image. And finally, we'll talk about how to build your first dynamic website. That's all for this part. Thank you for listening. Hi guys, in this chapter we'll talk about what are the things you need to host a dynamic website. But first, let's talk about what is static website and what is dynamic website. A static website consists of a series of HTML files, each one representing a physical page of a website. So on static sites, each page is a separate HTML file. For example, when you visit the homepage, you are viewing the actual homepage file. Moreover, if two pages contain a chunk of identical content, such as the same footer, if you want to update the footer, you must do so twice. So once on the first page and once on the second page. On the other hand, a dynamic website uses server-side languages such as PHP to dynamically build a web page when the user visits the page. So what happens is the user goes to a certain web address, and then the server finds a bunch of different pieces of information that it writes into a single cohesive web page, and finally presents the page to the user. In this page, we present a comparison between static and dynamic website. You can see from the table, compared to static website, in a dynamic website, content is generated dynamically and changes regularly. It uses the server-side languages such as PHP, JSP, and ASP.NET for developing a website. And in a dynamic website, it may generate different HTML for each of the requests. Also, the page contains server-side code that allows the server to generate the unique content when the page is loaded. And finally, when building a dynamic website, a content management system, also known as CMS, is often used to save the development time and take advantage on its rich plugins. According to the previous page, we know that when building a dynamic website, we'll usually use a content management system. In this Clouder session, the CMS that we will use is WordPress. In order to have our WordPress website ready, we'll need to have a server and have the required environment ready as well. So first, we'll need a web server running environment like LAMP, which is Linux operating system, Apache Web Service, MySQL database, and PHP. And then install WordPress. And finally, after setting the configuration file, you'll have a dynamic website ready to go. In this Alibaba Cloud Clouder session, we'll use ECS as the web server, installing Nginx, MySQL, and PHP, and then finally install and configure WordPress to have our dynamic website ready. We'll elaborate these details in the later chapters. That's all for this chapter. Thank you for listening. Hi guys, in the earlier chapter we talked about using Alibaba Cloud ECS as the cloud server. So in this chapter we'll talk about what exactly is ECS. This is the complete service portfolio of Alibaba Cloud. We provide services from computing to networking to storage to database to monitoring and security, and also big data, applications, and DEV OPS. And also we provide solutions for industries like gaming, web, IoT, media, digital marketing, healthcare, security, finance, O2O, storage, government, and mobile. And in this picture, ECS lies in the computing category. It's the first service in the category, stating that it is the most fundamental computing service in Alibaba Cloud. So what is ECS, or Elastic Compute Service? ECS is a computing service with flexible processing capability. Using ECS is like using a cloud server. Compared to physical servers, ECS can easily deploy and manage applications with better stability and security. Its flexibility can also lower overall IT costs and enabling you to focus more on key business innovations. Also, Elastic Compute Service (ECS) is an IaaS. The full name of IaaS is Infrastructure as a Service. So what is IaaS? IaaS is a term that comes along with cloud computing. There are also terms like PaaS and SaaS. Let's see what does these terms mean in the next page. In this page, you can see before having cloud, you have to take care of everything by yourself. You have to manage the networking, the storage, the server, the virtualization technology, the OS, middleware, runtime, data, and applications. After having cloud, we have IaaS, which is Infrastructure as a Service. So the infrastructure part is taken care of by the service provider. So you only need to take care of the operating system, the middleware, runtime, data, and applications. And then there are PaaS, which is Platform as a Service. So the platform is taken care of by the service provider. You only need to take care of the data and applications. And finally, there is Software as a Service, SaaS, meaning that everything is taken care of by the service provider. You only use the software directly. In Alibaba Cloud, ECS is an IaaS. So compared to OEM without cloud, you only need to take care of this part, which is only take care of the operating system, the middleware, the runtime, data, and applications. That's all for this chapter. Thanks for listening. Hi guys, in this chapter, we'll talk about how to choose your cloud server, or in other words, how to choose the ECS that suits your need. When talking about choosing ECS, what we choose is actually an ECS instance. An ECS instance is a virtual computing environment, including CPU, memory, and other fundamental computing components, which is shown like this picture. It is the actual operating entity presented to users. ECS provides a wide selection of instance types optimized to fit different use cases. Instance types comprise varying combinations of CPU, memory, storage, and networking capacity. In Alibaba Cloud ECS, ECS types are categorized by type families, and families are categorized by generations, which is shown like this picture. So the relationship is like this. First, you choose the generation, and then the desired family, and then the type. An example is shown in this figure. In here, we choose generation 3, balanced type family, and an available option in this type. There are also some other families like general type family, compute optimized type family, and network enhanced type family. So like what we mentioned earlier, you have to first choose the generation, then the type family, and then pick the desired ECS instance in the type you want. In Alibaba Cloud ECS, there are two ways you can use to purchase an ECS instance. The first way is pay-as-you-go. The second is subscription. So in pay-as-you-go mode, you pay for compute capacity by seconds, and it will bill you for the exact volume you actually use. And in pay-as-you-go mode, another benefit is there is no long-term commitments or upfront payments. The other mode is subscription mode. So in subscription mode, it provides you with discount compared to pay-as-you-go mode, and also it is available in either monthly or yearly subscriptions. And it's better suited for those require long-term resources. So it is recommended in Alibaba Cloud, you first try an ECS instance with pay-as-you-go mode. And then when you are happy with the ECS instance you use, then you can change it to subscription mode to save the cost. There are two other things you have to choose when buying an ECS instance. The first thing is region. Usually, the region refers to the city where Alibaba Cloud provides the cloud computing service. Generally, a region will cover an area, like for example in China, Beijing region covers North China area. And region is where Alibaba Cloud ECS will launch the instance that you create. So you have to, we do suggest you choose a region carefully, since different regions have different latency and costs as well. And in Alibaba Cloud, we now provide 14 regions around the world. The other thing you have to choose is zone when creating an ECS instance. In here, zone refers to, within a region, the physical data center with independent power supply and network. With this zone option, the user can choose the resource in different zones based on their distribution policy. So for example, creating resources in multiple zones can facilitate high availability, and on the other hand, creating resources in the same zone facilitates lower communication latency. In Alibaba Cloud, if you have two ECS instances in the same region but in two different availability zones, we provide inexpensive, low-latency intranet connectivity to other availability zones in the same region. And each region usually contains between 1 to 3 availability zones. Finally, let's talk about the networking when you have an ECS instance. So for example, like this picture, you have an ECS instance, ECS1, in Singapore region, inside availability zone A. Then you would have inbound traffic and also outbound traffic. In Alibaba Cloud, we only charge you for the outbound traffic. So you will only be charged for the outbound traffic fee. Another case is like this. If you have an ECS instance in Singapore region zone A and another ECS instance in Singapore region zone B, then the two ECS instances are communicating using private network because they are in the same region. And in this case, Alibaba Cloud will not charge you for the data transfer between the first ECS instance and the second ECS instance, since they are all communicating using private network. And there are two more things you will see when you purchase an ECS instance. First is default security group. If you just start to use Alibaba Cloud and haven't created any security groups, Alibaba Cloud will create a default security group for you. This security group allows public network connection, so when the user wants to initiate web server on an ECS instance and listen to port 80, he can use the default security group directly. Another thing is default VPC and vSwitch. In Alibaba Cloud, it provides a default VPC and vSwitch for you in the situation that you do not have any existing VPC and vSwitch to use when creating a cloud product instance. This default VPC and vSwitch will be created along with the creation of the instance. That's all for this chapter. Thanks for listening. Hi guys, before we start building your first dynamic website, let's talk about the final idea that you need to know, which is ECS storage and image. In Alibaba Cloud, ECS utilizes Cloud Disk as the system disk and data disk. Cloud Disk, also known as block storage, is based on an Alibaba Cloud self-developed distributed file system, with 3 redundant copies stored separately on different physical servers under the different switches. This mechanism is shown in the picture below. Cloud Disk provides extremely high data reliability and support convenient mount on ECS Management Console. And currently, Alibaba Cloud provides 2 types of Cloud Disks, which are Ultra Cloud Disk and SSD Cloud Disk. There are also one important feature in ECS Cloud Disk, which is Disk Image. ECS Disk Image is the template of a runtime environment for ECS instances, including operating system, pre-installed software, and related configurations. In Alibaba Cloud, currently there are 3 types of images provided. The first type is system images, also known as public images. Alibaba Cloud provides system images for mainstream distributions of Linux and Windows. And if you don't choose other types of images, this system image will be the default option. The second type is marketplace images. For user convenience, Alibaba Cloud provides third-party images, which is the system image with some software or value-added services pre-installed. And usually, these images are designed for certain development environment, like for example PHP or Java, or control environment. The third type is user-defined images, also known as custom image. A user-defined image can be created from the system disk of an existing ECS instance. This user-defined image can then be used to create massive replications of such ECS instance. And also, a user-defined image is the basis of horizontal scalability for web applications. And finally, let's talk about how can this disk image feature helps us. For example, you need an ECS instance like this picture and have its system disk installed Nginx, MySQL, PHP, and WordPress. You can do this in the traditional way, which is first purchase an ECS instance with required OS installed, and then install Nginx, then install PHP, and then install MySQL, and then install WordPress, and finally do some configuration and settings, and then you have the environment ready to go. Or the other way, you can use a marketplace or custom image. Then the task will be like this. You first choose the image with desired OS, runtime environment, and packages pre-installed. And then you purchase an ECS instance with the chosen image. And then you have everything ready to go. That's all for this chapter. Thank you for listening. So now let's move on to the demo part. So let's start building our first dynamic website. So let me put the browser on the screen again. Okay. So let's now start doing the demo in here. So let me go back to the home page. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is the page you'll see when you log into the Alibaba Cloud Console. So after you log into the Alibaba Cloud Console, you can go to the Elastic Compute Service. This is the ECS. Or you can go to the ECS console by clicking the product button here. And then in the Elastic Computing category, you'll see the Elastic Compute Service. So click on it, it will open the ECS console. So in default, you'll see no ECS instance running, no running ECS instance. That's very normal. If you just start to use Alibaba Cloud, of course, you will have nothing running yet. So let's, in our example, let's choose the Singapore region. So if you want to buy an ECS instance, you just choose the region you want, and then press the button here to buy the instance. So let me press it to buy the instance. So in here, you will see our new version UI. So this UI is quite convenient. It actually hides some very complicated settings. So you can do the purchase directly here and have everything done more easily. But well, in this course, I do want to introduce some more difficult, more advanced settings in the Alibaba Cloud Purchase Console. So let's switch back to the old version. Okay, so this is the old version Alibaba Cloud Purchase Console for ECS. So in this case, please don't choose the starter package because I want to show you some advanced options. So let's stick on the advanced purchase. Oh, I have to switch again. Hold on a second. Okay, so you can see on the purchase console, the first section will ask you to choose the pricing mode. And in our case, because we're doing a demo, I would prefer and it's recommended to do in pay-as-you-go mode. And then let's take a look. So here are all the regions available in Alibaba Cloud. And in our example, let me choose the Singapore and choose, I think Zone B is okay. So let's choose Zone B. And for the instance type, there are a number of instance types having different combinations of CPU, memory. So you can see that we have them categorized in different generations. And with these small boxes are different type families. So let's take a look. So for the generation 1 and 2 are more earlier version generation. So recently we do recommend users to choose generation 3 or the new coming generation 4. But in our case, let's stick on the generation 3 and we use general type. General type is okay for our case. But if you have some special use scenarios, like you need some very very advanced computing, like you need the instance with more advanced CPU, then you can choose the compute optimized types. Or you have the use case that with high I/O requirement, you can use the high I/O type. Or if your case have very high networking demand, then you can choose the network enhanced set, the network enhanced instance type families. But in our case, let's choose the general type family and then choose cheapest. Let's choose a cheapest ones because this one is just for example. And then here comes the networking setting. So in default, you have to choose VPC, and here comes the default VPC settings here. So these are all the default settings that you can choose. And also for the security group, you can choose the default security group. Okay, and here this is the part that tell you how the network will be building. You can choose from, there's only one option for you to choose, that is the data transfer. So the network building will be according to the amount of data transfer, the outbound data transfer in your ECS instance. And also to prevent that you have the data transfer too much at a time, so you can actually set the network bandwidth peak in here. But in our case, because we're just doing a demo, so let's just choose one. Okay, just for an example. And then here's the place you choose the operating system. So if you choose the public image, then you will only be pre-installing these operating systems in your ECS instance. And also, by the way, some students, they do often ask me, what is this Aliwin Linux? Well, this Aliwin Linux is actually a special version of CentOS that is actually being modified by our Alibaba Cloud engineers. We do some tailoring, we season it a little bit, and then have it published in our branding Aliwin Linux. But it's mainly, it's actually compatible with the CentOS. So if you have your applications that are runnable on CentOS, then you will have your applications runnable too on the Aliwin Linux. And in our internal testings, we do found that the same applications in Alibaba Cloud ECS, if you run it in the ECS that has CentOS running on it, or the ECS with Aliwin Linux running on it, usually it will be the ECS running Aliwin Linux on it, having the application that performs better. So we do recommend, if you usually use CentOS, you can try our Aliwin Linux. It does perform much better on our Alibaba Cloud ECS instance. But in today's demo, we will choose the marketplace image. And in here, let's choose this one, the WordPress on LAMP in Ubuntu. And also, here's a hyperlink. You can actually press it to take a look on this marketplace image. So you'll see here's a full product detail of this marketplace image. So these are the, let me zoom it a little bit. So these are the packages that are pre-installed in this marketplace image. And we are happy, and I'm quite satisfied with these packages, so I want to choose this one. So you just click on that, make sure this option becomes blue, and then we'll continue drag down. So then this is the part we choose the system disk. Well, in our case, Ultra Cloud Disk is already enough because we're just doing a demo, but you can still choose SSD Cloud Disk if you prefer. And then you can set the password here, or you can set it later. If you set it later, Alibaba Cloud will assign a root password for you. But of course, later in ECS console, you can change the root password at any time you want to a password you prefer. And finally, for the purchase plan, you can set an instance name, but if you don't set it, Alibaba Cloud will leave it blank and produce a random instance name for you. And for the number of instances, we're just doing a demo, so just leave it 1. And then finally, here's an overview again to recap the settings. And if you're happy with this setting, and you can see in the bottom part, there are three prices. The first is for renting the instance cost. The second is using the marketplace image. There will be the fee, but the image we choose, which is this one, it's it's actually free. Yeah, the pricing is actually fully free, so there won't be any price applied on the marketplace image fee. And then for the traffic fee, here say that every GB it will cost you 0.081 US dollar. So everything is okay. Then we go to the buy now. We press the buy now, and we review everything. And if it's okay, you don't see anything that's wrong or any mail option didn't show up, then we do the activate. And then just wait it for a few seconds. It's running on the background, and then okay, we have everything activated. So let's move to the console. Okay, so let's go back to the Singapore region. Let's press the instance. There should be one instance that's starting. Okay, so before we jump to our ECS instance and see the WordPress that's running on the ECS instance, there's one more thing you have to do. You have to go to the security group. So let's move to the security group. And so you can see now there's, in this security group, there's one related instance, which is the instance we just bought. And then we have to configure the rules in here. So these are the default rules in the security group. And we want to add some additional rules for our WordPress to be runnable on this in this security group setting. So we click the quickly create rules. And then we enable port 22, port 80, and port 443. So it's very simple. You just choose the 80, 443, and 22, and authorize 0.0.0.0/0, and then press OK. And then you'll see the settings are applied. You have 80, 443, 22 are allowed and authorized from 0.0.0.0/0. Okay, so now we have everything ready. So let's go back to the instance. And oh, it's running now. Okay, so let's take a look on the WordPress that is pre-installed in this ECS instance. So if you want to access the WordPress, you just copy the internet IP address and then put it into the address bar. And then just wait a while for the WordPress to, okay, so it's now ready to go. You can start setting your WordPress and having your first dynamic website ready to go now.